places they were actually catching these fish. And they required them to have this GPS tracking system on those boats. And they had to pay for that themselves. And that, the Supreme Court ruled, is a straight up violation of the Constitution. You cannot, federal government, state, anybody, cannot require someone to have to go pay for a third party service to comply with a law or regulation. Period.
And to speak to the question about like the data and all that, I think somebody had said they won't give it to you. And so that's the interesting thing is you can get data on whatever you want. It's just you have to ask for it. And that's the hard part is that you have to make sure that you word your asks correctly. They'll give it to you. They're not going to give it to you unless you ask for it a specific way, but it's out there. I've never had a FOIA denied. I've had to rewrite them because they don't like the words I'm using, or they're like, well, is this really what you want? So you have to be incredibly specific. But any of that crash data, and that goes for insurance companies and all that, you have the right to that information. You can get it. You just have to ask for it, and then you have to go through it. And that hasn't happened in a lot of cases, is that because and I get it. Truck drivers aren't data analysts, and they're not scientific researchers, and that's not what it is. But unfortunately, that is a huge component to making your lives better, is to be able to do that kind of stuff. Because that's what the change is going to be, because that's where you have the research to do it.
Sleep with that under my pillow, maybe I'll get it.
And your big fleets and, majority of even probably your smaller fleets are probably not going to want to deal with their drivers being on paper logs, because most of these guys, they don't sign their name to them. Hell, they don't do it with the e-log.
You're right, Rocky. That would be, we're going to be incurring another expense and hiring back office administrative people to audit logs.
Right.
And you can't even find.
You hit the nail on the head, and that's the reason, one of the reasons the mega carriers are the ones who started this e-log and pushed for it. Do you know how many office personnel they eliminated by not having to go over and physically examine every logbook from 15,000 drivers every day?
Well, can you imagine the problem? Now you got to go back to, now we have to train these people on hours of service and form and manner and all these things. And, there's not a whole lot of people that are that in depth in the regulation at any of these carriers anymore. They hire somebody to fill a seat and say the seat is filled, but they know nothing about the job.
Well, I can say this on this form and manner side, though. I've seen it also that they don't even follow the form and manner in the ELD, though. They don't even, most of them, I don't know how many times I've talked to some of these guys or gals out here that they didn't realize that they did have to still put the BOL number in the ELD.
And I disagree with that, because if you run an ELD, and I'm familiar with Samsara, what's the other one we used to have? I don't remember what other one, but like you have a screen where you have to have, it shows the driver name, you have to put in a tractor number, a trailer number, a shipper ID. It's right there. Like, how do you not know you need something if it's part of the form that you're filling out?
Don't ask me how they didn't know. They just didn't know. I'm just telling you what I heard.
Not all of them have it. Like I run Blue Ink Tech, and it has a field for it, but it's not a required. They haven't made it a required field, and I don't think. I think Motive's the same way.
Yeah, I mean, it's out there that a lot of them don't even understand the form and manner. It's no different than Rocky talked about the fact that you need to annotate in that ELD, no different than you would annotate on a paper log of what happened and why it happened. Because if you don't, if something does happen, you mean to tell me you're going to remember what you had for breakfast 4 weeks from today? No, you're not.
All the things that you're talking about are a carrier training issue. The motor carrier is responsible. And if you're an owner operator, single truck owner, then you are the motor carrier. You got to know this crap.
I understand that, but not everybody does. This is that education side, though, that we keep talking about. I mean, I'm just saying, if we're going to get into the form and manner side of it, I know people that's not even doing it on ELD. So is all I'm saying is,
At least with the ELD, the carrier can say, hey, you need to go into this log and edit this and add this, add that.
Well, the carrier can add that stuff. The carrier can edit those things and put that in there.
Right.
When we go back to paper, I remember guys having to come in. They would literally have to come from the Carolinas back to Jacksonville because they had logs that they mailed in that were not correct, where they didn't have their certain stuff on, that they had to come back in town, right, to fix this stuff so they could get another load to go back out.
They didn't
Where
have to do that either, but
carriers don't want to deal with that crap anymore.
Right. And, you know, I understand that. I understand, you know, when we did this exemption, I understand the mega carriers and a lot of carriers